Every once in a while, even the most battle-hardened weeaboo veterans who have spent countless hours defending their waifu on Twitter can start to feel a bit of anime fatigue. You know the feeling, when every new show you watch just feels like the same thing you've seen 100 times, the plots feel predictable and repetitive, and you stop even trying to remember the characters' names anymore and just say, oh, that's the tsundere girl, or hey, it's that Shinji ass bitch. This isn't really exclusive to anime either, and happens in basically every fandom. Video games are another big one, where every day you'll see people posting on Reddit about how they can't enjoy new games anymore and everything feels the same. I mean, fuck, I've even felt this with sports before, where watching a game that used to excite me and keep me on the edge of my seat ends up just becoming background noise while I scroll through social media. Regardless, whenever you're in one of these slumps with something that you used to be passionate about, all it can take is one amazing show or game or whatever to reignite that flame and make you remember what you loved so much about that hobby when you first got into it. For video games, the fatigue breaker I remember the most fondly is Dark Souls. A few years ago, I had basically stopped playing video games entirely and thought that I had just outgrown the hobby. Whenever I tried to play a new game that I hadn't already put dozens of hours into when I was younger, I'd end up just getting bored and giving up pretty quickly. Then one day, I decided to play Dark Souls. I still couldn't tell you why I chose Dark Souls. It had been quite a while since I tried to play a new game, and the game was already super old at this point. I think even Sekiro had already been released. But on a whim, I decided to give it a go, and it genuinely made me feel like I was a kid again, exploring the Kanto region for the first time. After having this one experience with a game I found to be amazing, it allowed me to appreciate video games as a medium again, even though very few of them could live up to the new standards that Dark Souls had set for me. When it comes to anime and manga, I've never really had a massive case of fatigue. But like with any interest, there's always going to be periods of time where you're just not as invested. But every now and then, a show will come along that'll make you fall in love with anime all over again. The first show that made me feel that way was Steins Gate. After I first got into anime, I watched a few of the more mainstream shows and everything, but Steins Gate was a story that made me realize, damn, this anime shit goes kinda hard, doesn't it? Serial Experiments Lain, Eva, Ping Pong, Shinsekai Yori, Madoka Magica. These are all shows that have given me a similar feeling over the years, and all of them have reignited that flame and made me want to become even more of a cringe anime fan. An anime that I watched very recently gave me a similar sort of feeling. A show from last year that I think has potential to go down as a modern classic. Summertime Render. Summertime Render was among the best anime I watched last year, but goddamn did it have a lot of competition. 2022 was an insane year for quality anime, with massive shows like Chainsaw Man, Attack on Titan, and Kaguya-sama stealing a lot of the spotlight. Then, completely out of nowhere, it's announced that after a 10-year hiatus, they're finally animating the last arc of Bleach. Like, what the fuck? How is any other show meant to get attention when these massive franchises are swinging their high-budget dicks all over the place? There's like a dozen other shows from last year that I haven't mentioned that also got a huge amount of hype when they aired, but Summertime Render is one that I've seen very few people talk about. I rarely see people mentioning this anime when they talk about the best shows of last year. And I'd never even heard of the manga before, despite the fact that I generally like to keep my finger on the pulse in that regard. But despite its small amount of traction, Summertime Render was probably my favourite show from 2022, along with Cyberpunk Edgerunners. But where Edgerunners was flashy and cool and overall just awesome to watch, Summertime Render just gave me that feeling where it's like, damn, I'm watching a classic here. Maybe this is just my bias towards slower paced shows like Monster and Paranoia Agent where you're gradually learning about a mystery, but Summertime Render to me just felt like a nice date with someone you really enjoy being with, and getting the feeling that things might really be changing. Whereas Cyberpunk was like getting wasted with the boys and pissing on a cop car at 3 in the morning. Don't get me wrong, both are enjoyable experiences, but Summertime Render just felt like such a special show that you don't get to see very often. Now, before I start creaming myself over how good Summertime Render is, let's address the colossal titan in the room. Summertime Render is possibly the single worst title I've ever seen for a good anime. My god, man, I was put off watching this show for so long because I thought it was going to be some boring-ass slice of life where there's a bunch of characters wearing beach gear and helping their grandparents with housework. You know, white people renovating houses kind of shit. After watching the show, I can almost understand why the author used this title. But seriously, man, couldn't they have given it a name that actually tells you what the show's about? Something like, Murder Mystery Beach Time, or, I don't know, fucking Eren Yeager and the Island of Incest. Honestly, I can't actually think of a good title, but a lot of my favorite shows have titles that mean basically nothing and still manage to sound cool. I just wish Summertime Render went that route instead of a title that means basically nothing, but is also so stupid sounding that you're embarrassed to recommend it to your friends. Anyway, enough of me ripping on the name of the show. Let's talk about why the anime is so good. From the very first scene of the show, until basically the end, Summertime Render does the thing that I enjoy the most in a story. It introduces a tiny bit of information that leaves you guessing about what it could mean and what path the story's going to take next. Whenever I watch an anime with my GF, we always love to pause the show after getting given some info, and you know, we just sit there theory crafting what could be coming next. And while this may sound like an incredibly frustrating way to turn a 20-minute episode into a 30-minute episode, I guarantee you that our autism is on the same wavelength, so you know, no harm, no foul. So at its core, Summertime Render is a mystery anime, and it more than delivers in that regard by giving us an intriguing premise with a well-written story and good pacing for the reveals of new information. In addition to this, it provides very likable characters that make the show enjoyable to watch even when they're just pissing around and hanging out. The main character is basically just Eren Yeager, and if you watched my Anime Edgelords video, you'll know that I'd literally suck that guy's dick. The supporting cast too all feel like their own individual characters and not just vessels to move the plot forward. But even with all of these solid characters, the show is completely stolen by Ushio, proving once and for all that tsunderes are the objective best race and need to be nerfed in the next balance update. The animation for this show was surprisingly good too, considering that the studio that made it is best known for Pokemon and the fucking 90s adaptation of Berserk. Everything about this anime just came together so perfectly, and while I was starting to think the show was losing a bit of steam towards the end due to, you know, the cat being out of the bag in regards to the mystery, it ended up managing to stick the landing and give us a satisfying ending that tied up all the loose ends, making this into a show that I will continue to remember fondly in the same light as shows like Steins Gate and Shinsekai Yori. I know that watching anime can start to feel tedious sometimes when every show you see can be broken down into a simple formula that it feels like every story is just copying and tweaking a little. But the reason all of us keep coming back is for those times when you see anime at its best, breaking new ground and captivating the audience in a way we don't get to see very often. If you or somebody you know is suffering from anime fatigue, please, get a prescription for Summertime Render. Ignore the stupid ass title and watch the symptoms disappear as your love for anime is rekindled. Thanks for watching, subscribe for more weeb shit.